Hey everybody, it's your salty neighbor Giant here, and today we are doing a video, you're just watching it, that I've been playing around with for a long time, and I figured today would be a good day to actually just do it. So today's video is gonna go over large-scale PvP, but it's not gonna explain what large-scale PvP is in Ashes of Creation. It's not gonna go over any new information regarding large-scale PvP in Ashes of Creation. So if you're looking for new information, switch the channel, come back later, because there's none gonna be in this video. So the reason why I want to make this video, and I'm gonna go over what is going to be in this video in a couple seconds, is pretty simple. Ashes of Creation, Intrepid Studio, claims they will not have Zerg PvP. So Zerg PvP you have in most current MMORPGs. You have it in World of Warcraft Classic. I just recently saw a video where it's pretty much just Zerg PvP. Guild Wars 2, Black Desert Online, Arcade. Most modern MMORPGs, when it comes to large-scale PvP, it's Zerg PvP. There is no real fear of dying, because within a minute or two you can be back in the action. So imagine Zerg PvP just being two big waves of people clashing over and over into each other. So Intrepid Studio, especially when it comes to node sieges, doesn't want to do that. They are trying, or they're going to try as soon as we get into the alpha stages, to test out certain mechanics to minimize or completely remove Zerg PvP, which they are going to try to do with increased timers depending on what's going on during a node siege. It's going to be increasing, it's going to be decreasing depending on what the attacker or defender does. And also they have the little fact of player collision, which most MMORPGs, Guild Wars 2, World of Warcraft, they don't have player collision, so everybody can just, you know, come together and, or like, they can gather on one point, do a mage ball, and that's pretty much it. So I figured, with the years of knowledge that I have in Zerg PvP and games like Armored 2, Armored 3, PlanetSide 2, everywhere where there is large-scale PvP, I mostly spend at least like 300 to 400 hours in. I could maybe go over a couple definitions that might be helpful for some newbies or some people that never done it before, and some pointers for some veterans or maybe mid to advanced MMORPG players that do large-scale PvP. So if you want to watch this, you know, keep watching. If you are looking for new information about Ashes, this might not be the video. So yeah, I think we should just jump right into it. Okay, so before we get into the nice stuff or the more interesting stuff that I find interesting, we should go over 3 core words that come into play when it comes to large-scale PvP, which is tactic, commanding, and strategy. Because the more over the years, the more I played, I always heard good people in charge using the wrong terminology when it comes to certain things. So let's start out let's just start out with tactic. So tactic, you can pretty much put in the same boat as strategy, but tactic is something that happens during the fight, something that happens in the moment, something that you can prepare for, something that you can practice, but it's not the same as strategy. Tactic is an action or method that is planned or used to achieve a certain goal. While on the other side, strategy is something that is being prepared and gathered and worked on over a long period of time. For example, when it comes to strategy compared to tactics, in strategy, there's a lot more information gathering going on. There's a lot more politics going on because you're trying to achieve a long-term goal. That's what you should use your strategy for, is for long-term goals. For example, if you plan on completely destroying a node, you should lay out a strategy on how to do that. A tactic would be just to, you know, keep attacking and attacking and attacking. But the overall strategy should be to interrupt, you know, their reinforcements, their supplies. So there's a certain definition and gap between tactic and strategy that plays to certain people's strengths and weaknesses. For example, I'm pretty good at strategy. I can gather all the information I have and maybe lay out 15 different scenarios on how to achieve a certain goal over a long period of time. We're talking months, weeks, years. And then there are certain people that are really good when it comes to the action. They really know what's going on, and they can lay down tactics really quickly and really simple for people to follow to achieve a certain small or mid-term goal, which is, for example, I'm saying, okay, we need to disrupt the supply chain to a certain node. So we have to attack a certain route towards the node. Then you have somebody who has a group of people behind him go in and say, okay, we're gonna attack that caravan, and then they lay out the tactics on how to do so. Then it comes to the term of commanding. Commanding is mostly used for the person in charge. If it's your guild leader, raid leader, platoon leader, outfit leader, it's the guy that says what's going on during the fight. He is also the guy that organizes the groups. He's also the guy that knows what certain classes can do and can maximize and minimize and optimize what is going on during the fight, because he has all the information in the back of his head and he can use it like that. Strategists like myself, on the other hand, we have the same information, but we most of the time we can lay out what certain situations could be for the commander to take a look at and say, okay, we can go into this situation. If you're telling me this is how it's going to be, then we can use that and that skill and that lineup for that situation, and then we see how it goes. And then he goes into the fight as the commanding person, and then the fight starts, and then he has the tactics. He says, okay, tanks go up front, mages go around the left and right, flank on either side. So there is a certain definition, because I hear a lot of people talking about, oh yeah, this was my strategy in mid-fight, and you want to be really clear when you're commanding a large group of people on how you use certain words. So those three definitions, tactics, strategy, and commanding, make sure if you're new to understand what each of them means. Okay, so now that is covered, now I want to go over a couple other things that is called military strategies and concepts. So when it comes to large-scale PvP in most MMORPGs, it's pretty much just one objective, which is an offensive strategy, which is annihilate and destroy the enemy forces. So when it comes to Ashes, I figured this is still the case. You still want to defeat your enemy, but because everything always changes and there is repercussions and there is results that impact the world itself depending on what you do as a group, you maybe want to lay out some offensive strategies and some defensive strategies to make sure that you achieve your goal. So the point is, when it comes to an offensive strategy, to no matter the situation you go in, to have a plan. No matter what it is, you have a certain awareness of what is going to happen. You do that when it comes to strategies, you do that by gathering all the information you can and preparing in advance. I know a lot of people, a lot of large-scale groups, they just gather up, they have somebody in charge that knows what he's doing, and then they go in. With Ashes, I don't think this will be the case. So having a basic understanding on how military formations work or how certain offensive strategies can be implemented in an MMORPG environment, I think is a pretty good concept. So we are going to go over a couple of offensive strategies that I learned over the years, for example, in games like Arma 2 and PlanetSide 2, that actually worked out pretty well and are not that complicated. They're not that complicated. They're easily implementable. So we're going to go into that. So the first one that we're going to go over is something called Attrition Warfare, which is pretty straightforward. Okay, so before I explain what you're seeing right now, I just want to make something really clear. A lot of the terms I'm using are from actual military sources and have been used in military scenarios or still being taught at military academies. Just want to make sure. I know some of the stuff I'm gonna say might not be 100% accurate. That's the reason, because I'm implementing it into an MMORPG environment and I'm simplifying it. I'm simplifying it a lot. So, like I said, first thing I want to do is talk about Attrition Warfare. Attrition Warfare is pretty much you grinding down your opponent. So most of the time in large-scale PvP, you have two sides. They're getting at each other. They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because they don't have to be afraid of them losing forces, because when people die, they can spawn back or respawn really, really quickly. So with this now, I want to lay down a simple strategy for you to use when it comes to a situation where you don't have unlimited soldiers. So attrition warfare is pretty much you fighting your opponent, your opposite group, to a certain point where you then say, okay, both sides are losing way too many soldiers, we need to do something, we need to switch it up, we need to make something happen. So the idea behind this is pretty simple. You're gonna have your group and you're gonna go into a certain formation that resembles a U, a V, or something where your enemy, which, you know, is this guy right here. Give me a second. It's the first time I'm doing this, so I'm still not learning. So this gentleman right here is the enemy. So the idea is that your group, which, you know, Intrepid Studio on the left, is slowly moving in set direction, while leaving, give me a second, there we go, by leaving this part right here open. This part right here will be the box that I will, as the enemy, most likely because I'm greedy as fuck, move into to get the most kills. So now the point is to keep moving towards the left, and there may be some players that, you know, move out of position. They decide to, you know what, I want to get more kills, so I'm just gonna go up here and try to get some kills. But you will keep on moving to the left because your enemy is following you. You have the advantage because you dictate the speed of the battle. And if you say, okay, they're now charging us and chasing us, that they're completely out of formation, if we stop now and we go the opposite way, and now we push back, where the hell is it? There it is. And if we now push back, we get the advantage. We now overcome the wave. We now declared that we decide the pace of the battle and we can dictate how the battle ends. It's all about pacing and positioning of your troops. So I hope that one was not too complicated. Like I said, the first time I'm doing this, it all sounds way better in my head, so I'm apologizing, but let's move on. Okay, so the next thing that I want to cover or try to explain is something that I like to call the Battle of Annihilation. A lot of times in large-scale MMORPG fights, there is not a lot of preparation or planning. It's pretty much everybody gather up, everybody do and follow certain orders that one person gives, because you do not have to split your troops. In games like Arma 2 and maybe even PlanetSide 2, this is not the case. You can split your troops if you lay out what everybody has to do and what the overall objective is. I believe in Ashes of Creation, if everything goes well in development, if everything goes well in testing, this will also be the case. So if this is the case, and we're gonna go based on that it is the case, you now have to think what you want to do. Do you want to just gather everybody up and hope for the best, that you have enough manpower and skill in individual players to just, you know, go in, dive in and just finish everybody? Or will you take time to prepare and split up your troops to have the positional advantage? For example, just to, you know, make this a little bit more easy on the eyes. Let's say you have a guild versus guild fight. Okay, my guild, because, you know, we're badass, you know, we're PKers, we don't, you know, we kill people left and right. We don't prepare because we think we have enough people to kill everybody. On the other side, you have a group of people that are like, okay, we don't have that many skilled players, but we spend weeks and weeks of gathering information on the enemy, gathering information on where we're gonna fight, on our own individual players, what we have, what are our resources that we can use, and now we can prepare a situation and a strategy that will turn over into tactics during the fight that will guarantee us victory. So for example, something that could happen is the fight starts, my opponent split their troops into 3 pieces, alright? One is gonna be their taunters. One is gonna be like, oh yeah, we are the guys, you know, we're gonna go right up in their face, yada yada yada. So I'm moving over here. Because now me and Steven are like, you know what, Steven, let's go. But what we didn't know is that up north, Jeff and Bacon, they're like, you know what? We're just gonna go in from the back now. And Maggie and Peter, they are going to just lay down support for both sides. So now I'm surrounded on 3 sides because I didn't prepare, and now I'm getting annihilated. Just something to keep in mind if you go into Ashes of Creation, into the MMORPG. Maybe this comes true, maybe not. Like I said, I just had these cool ideas that I wanted to share. Alright, so that's pretty much what I call Battle of Annihilation, is people that prepare, people that don't. By preparing, I don't mean just showing up with health pots, gathering information, understanding what you have, and then preparing for a battle. So the next thing that I want to go over is something that is actually, to my surprise, not being used in a lot of MMORPGs when it comes to large-scale PvP, which is the element of surprise or just a basic distraction of what's going on. Most of the time, when you go into fights, especially in Guild Wars 2 or Black Desert Online, you see what you get. You see what you're up to, you see what you have to fight, and that's pretty much it. There's no, surprise. Maybe the opposing commander is doing something and you're not prepared for that, but it rarely never happens. So in Ashes, with there not being quick waypoints where you can travel to, the environment itself just is probably your best ally. So to lay down what I mean is, if you, for example, my PK guild, that doesn't exist, I'm not a PK, I'm just saying, I'm just playing the bad guy. If my PK guild sees a little old caravan, going down the street and it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to the node, we're gonna go, woo, yeah, woo. And I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's go chase these guys. Let's go, let's go and, let's go this way and just finish them off. But I didn't check what was going on around me. I saw, excuse me, I saw my goal. I saw what I wanted to do. I saw what I wanted to kill. I didn't check what's going on around me. And turns out, at the end of the day, that little caravan was a distraction. Because, who knows, maybe a PvE guild finally decided we had enough and we're gonna go and freaking murder you. So, now I'm pretty much done for. So yeah, so if you go into battle, check your surroundings, beware of surprises, and don't get distracted. Keep your eyes on the prize, but also around you. Okay, so next up I want to go over defensive strategies, which is a little bit more simple, but also a little bit more complicated in certain regards to offensive strategies. Because when it comes to defensive strategies, you are most likely at a disadvantage, and you have to really be careful on how you lay out your strategy and how you proceed on engaging your enemy. So the first point that I want to go over is something that a lot of people know what it is, which is choke points. Most of the time, choke points do play an important role when it comes to defending certain areas. And the best way to describe it is to pretty much just watch the movie 300.
Hold! Give them nothing, but take from them everything!
So yeah, if you are at a disadvantage when it comes to numbers, try to fight at a place where the numbers advantage of your opponent doesn't play that big of a role. And with a game that has player collision, you can be pretty sure that that is a valuable or viable option for you to use. Because you cannot stack people on one spot. Everybody has a hitbox, everybody cannot stagger on one particular character. So make sure to really judge how many people you have and how many people the opponent has. Okay, so the next defensive strategy I like to call turtling. and other people might also call it guerrilla warfare or some other names. But the idea behind what, like I said, I like to call turtling is a slow and steady pre-engagement or disengagement to my enemy force. Let's say my group is out gathering materials. They're gathering herbs, wood, for whatever. Me and my PK guild, we know they're out there, and we're gathering, and we're preparing to jump them. But what we don't know is that they know that we're coming. So the normal way most people deal with that sort of situation is they completely retreat. They're like, nope, fuck this, nope, we're not doing this. We are leaving, we don't want to be here, no, fuck this, we're out. What you should do instead is communicate with your node, your guild, or whoever you can gather and tell them, hey, listen, there's this group of people, they're gathering. They're not all together yet, but they're slowly getting more and more. So what we're gonna do, instead of running, we are going to attack them real quick. Couple seconds of fight, maybe a minute or two, and then we're gonna leave again. And then we're gonna do the same thing again. We're gonna go, attack, retreat, preventing the bad guys from gathering their troops and organizing them for the attack. So the reason why you do that, is not because you want to get kills. The reason why you should do this is to buy yourself time. Because the longer you prevent your enemy forces to gather and get into formation or plan how they will attack you, you're buying yourself time. And you want to buy yourself time because, like I said earlier, you contacted everybody you could for one particular reason. Now you are getting reinforcements. And now the guy that you thought you could not beat is at a disadvantage because, like I said, you bought yourself time to gather your own troops while he is still dealing with your attacks. So now this guy is screwed. Hope that makes sense. It's one of my favorite strategies because I used to do that a lot in Black Desert Online when PK guilds tried, to gank us. Attack, retreat, attack, retreat, attack, retreat till you have enough forces. It's a really good strategy, and I think a lot of people can actually use this when it comes to, farming or doing guild events or stuff like that. Okay, so the last thing that I want to go over real quick is a couple of strategic concepts that I think every guild leader or raid leader, commander, whatever you want to call him, platoon leader, should be aware of and should know. So the first thing is just information in general. The more information you have on your opponent, the situation, the better off you are. If it's size of the enemy, their equipment, the direction they're coming from, the environment around you, the landscape, are there rivers, mountains, forests, everything you can gather, and having a group of people inside your guild or your node that knows how to work that information to your advantage is gonna give you, for the long run, for a longer period of time, an advantage. To put it pretty simple, information is power. Everybody knows this. This is not something that I made up. Information is power. But working that information and using it for long periods of time to achieve certain strategic goals, if it's server supremacy, node survival, guild dominance on the server, no matter what it is, information is key. Period. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about when it comes to strategic concepts is maneuver warfare, which is I don't know if I translated that correctly into an MMORPG environment, but I think I'm pretty spot on. So what I understand under maneuver warfare, or how I use it in most MMORPGs, is pretty much changing or impacting the decision making of your opponent. If you can force your opponent to behave and act in certain ways, you have an advantage, because now you are the puppet master. You're like, ooh, you play after our rules now, motherfucker. So you can use that in many different ways, through trade agreements, or just being a toxic and a troll. If you keep on farming the same person, the same group of people at the same spot, they are going somewhere else. You're making them move. You're changing their mind and putting them somewhere else. If you can change their behavior, you dictate what happens next. This is a little bit tricky because it plays with information, behavior, and sometimes, you know, it has results that you might not be able to predict. For example, if you say, okay, we want to farm here because we don't like that guild and we know they farm there, and now you're farming them and the spot, but now they are like, we need help, and they're gathering a bigger guild than yours. Now there's a completely new guild war that you didn't predict. So maneuvering your opponent is tricky, and it's a balancing act. You need to really know what could happen, and a good strategist would lay out like 15 different possible outcomes for when you decide to do something that would impact the decision making of your opponent. And the last thing that I want to talk about is, I know a lot of guilds, and this is a strategic concept that I think will be really important in Ashes. A lot of guilds already say we're gonna be number one, we are gonna kill everybody, but something that I think will play a really big part in Ashes of Creation is alliances. Especially when you want to build up your node, it's not gonna be able to, not unless you have a really huge guild. I mean, like thousands of people or hundreds of people. You may be able to, you know, build up a node by yourself. But most of the time, you want to pick an alliance with somebody you trust. Because that way, you don't have to shoulder all the power. You don't have to, you know, force yourself to spend 40 hours a day. I know it's way too many, but, you know, some people say they play 40 hours a day. Picking a good guild as your alliance member and somebody you can trust will help you in a lot of situations. Guild wars, siege wars, and a lot of people, they just pick guilds based on, you know, their size, their strength, but you want to make really sure that you know who you're dealing with. Sometimes a big guild can help, but also they will try then to, you know, push you out. Other times, you know, smaller guilds, several smaller guilds that are not as powerful as a big guild, together can take on bigger guilds. That's something to keep in mind. So yeah, that's it. That's actually all the time I have. Actually, this is actually what I wanted to do. I wanted to talk over a couple points. I had a bunch more things that I wanted to go into, but they were like way too long. If you guys like this sort of video, let me know. Press the subscribe button and the bell button, leave a comment. If you want me to go over certain scenarios that could happen in Ashes of Creation, post them down below, write them in detail, make a couple bulletin points maybe, and I can cover them. I think that would be something that I would enjoy doing. If you want to support me, feel free to use my referral link down below. Keep an eye on the Ashes of Creation Discord now that APOC is live. You know, we're going places. So everybody, as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you on the Ashes of Creation community Discord. Peace.